do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
What the is that, dude?
And hello, folks. How are you this very fine evening? Yep, it's going to be a bit of a funny show tonight because I had some meeting I had to be at, but then it turned out I didn't have to be at, so I'm not at. But I don't have that much of a show planned because I didn't expect to be here. However, fortuitously, I screwed up the little drive around to the property yesterday with the audio, so I've done a little voiceover for that. I'll replay some of that for you in this show in just a few minutes, actually, so you can have a bit of a look around here and see what it's like. Of course, if you're that way motivated, and I've had somebody, I think Rolly rang me today and left a message. He's interested in looking at a block out here. There aren't that many left, I've got to tell you. But if you are interested, then please email carl@vofhq.com and I will make sure that Cass and her team get a hold of it, and they'll be in touch if you are interested. Like I say, it's a beautiful property. If you understand, we are living off grid. And I do a lot of we this and we speaking in this video. I feel that I'm part of this community, so I'm sort of we in that regard. But I have no interest in the property. I'm not an owner. I'm barely a worker. But I go out and work when I have the time and choose to. There are workers on the place that get paid for that. And I just want to be part of the community. I want to feel part of it. So I try and chip in where and when I can. And I help Cass out occasionally where she's got things that she can't lift. And trust me, she's a strong lady. She doesn't need me too many times. So if there is an opportunity to help out, I'm always the bloke who likes to try and be there to help out if at all possible. Okay, so just having a bit of a look at the Cairns News website. If you haven't been on to Cairns News, cairnsnews.org is the website to go through. There is some pretty interesting headlines that the boys are putting up through there. And over the last couple of days, you might find, some articles of interest, particularly regarding livestock and the livestock lobby. You might also find some news about the slaughter of our heritage horses that has been condoned in the New South Wales Supreme Court. And of course, there's the latest and rather interesting news coming out of the Harris-Walsh camp in the American presidential election, revealing the pair as there's a report reveals the pair as pedophile defenders. So many things are being shown to us, whether we're choosing to see them, the symbology of them. And it was, if you remember, one of the earliest sayings from Q, the symbology will be their downfall. Keep watching for the symbols. And in fact, not just in the broader term, but in your own personal life, because I believe that we get that influence from our guides here to help us. Because they can't speak to us in a language we know, or like English or whatever, but they do speak to us in other ways, symbols, symbology, making you do things. And I'll give you an example. The other day, I had been here. I had to go out somewhere, and I'd been sitting in the bus, went out to the car, jumped in the car, didn't have the car keys, walked back into the bus, picked up the car keys, thought, no, is there anything else I should really have here? And dismissed that thought more or less straight away, walked out of the bus, got back into the car and backed out and thought, where's my phone? Drove back in, got out of the car, got back in, walked back into the bus to discover the phone in my pocket. So I thought to myself, so for some reason, I've been brought back into the bus. What have I forgotten? What are you trying to show me? And I asked out loud to, whatever spiritual guides that I have for help. And Why did you bring me back in here? Why is it important that I've come back in so many times? And I turned around to my left and my eye immediately fell on my wallet. Then I got in the car and drove away. Now, I don't know. That might just be coincidence, I guess. But I don't know. I choose to believe that I was dragged back in there for a reason. And I'm just too fast to identify maybe the reasons when I go back in. I out the keys, that's them. But there was more to it than that. And that can be so true in so many other aspects of our lives. And I don't know that many of us are that awake to it. I think this is part of the awakening process. And I'm not very good at it yet. I'll stick my hand up. But I'm desperately trying to get better at it and keeping practicing at it and keeping open to it, which I think is probably one of the biggest things that you can do. Remain open to it. I haven't got the link unless it's turned up in my email yet, but Senator Roberts has been out today. Yes, I do have the link. Let me copy it and I'll put it in the chat. Senator Roberts released this video about an hour ago. Now, I've listened to most of it. It's about 9 minutes long. And I think the senator, there you go. I've just posted that link in the chat now. I think the senator should be commended for drawing the attention to the WHO and this monkeypox or mpox pandemic plan that is coming ahead. He's doing a great job, as did Senator Rennick when he was back with the LNP. Of course, he's no longer with the LNP, having resigned because they're not going to endorse him, obviously, to his Senate seat. Now, I've been pretty critical of Senator Rennick over the last couple of years. I've moderated that somewhat because I think while I was being critical, it was just superficial and easy target stuff, low-hanging fruit. Not knowing the true machinations behind the scenes and everything going on. I've learned a little bit more since then. So certainly there is a group of senators in particular that I have a degree of respect for that is much higher than when we started this whole little adventure together. And Rennick is one of them. And in fact, Senator Rennick may well be watching the show on a regular basis because he believes government overreach is killing the Australian spirit of entrepreneurship, individual responsibility and aspiration. I couldn't agree more. So he has started the Gerard Rennick People First Party. And he will stand as an independent for the Senate under the People First banner. How's that sit with you? Now, he's going to sit for a Queensland Senate seat. All right. Now, there are 2 of those available, I think, from memory. Maybe there's 4. Make it a bit easier if there's 4, but the 2 that are currently occupied that I'm thinking of belong to Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts. But Rennick starting his own party, I think, is pretty interesting. He has been able to dig down and ask the questions that have never been answered, but are now in Hansard, and the fake answers, the wiggly worm kind of wordage and verbiage that public servants to ministers use to evade giving an answer, and then to cast aspersions over that particular senator, so much so that his own party turned on him. Vicious pack of pricks the LNP are. Never trust the politicians, but I guess the politicians know that too, where he was hacked down and disendorsed. How would it be if a whole heap of people stood as independents under the People First banner? I know, see, Gerard Rennick's name is in it. I think that having your name in the party is problematic, to say the least. Ask Clive Palmer and ask Pauline Hanson. Problematic. But I guess it places you as the leader of that party, come hell or high water. And I don't know how that sits with a whole bunch of independents. But the people first part, I really like. I hope Senator Rennick will come on and explain how the party he sees going forward might work with voters like me. And I suspect a few of you will vote like me, if you vote at all. And I've got to tell you, it's more an if in my case. I pay the fines. So I prefer not to be involved, although it's interesting. I've been rung now 3 or 4 times, I think, in the last week by the AEC. They are wondering whether or not I'm interested in being a scrutineer or a ballot centre worker for the coming Queensland election. Now, they've been trying to get me into this because I applied, must have been for the last federal election, I want to say. Yeah, must have been for that. And they were all geared, and I was very keen to go and see how that process works, how being one of those volunteers at a polling place, not handing out the how to vote cards, but helping people inside there and the counting of the votes, particularly afterwards. I was very keen to get inside and see how all that worked. But because I hadn't had the squirty thing shoved in me, I was not allowed to be part of that. And I haven't bothered answering their phone calls this time around because I really can't be bothered. I have absolutely no interest other than we've got to get rid of Stephen Miles. And I'll give you a couple of indications as to why I think we should get rid of Stephen Miles, the current Premier of Queensland. The Brisbane Pride Festival with a theme of being considerate. Isn't that lovely? Now, people might suggest that that could be a Photoshop, but I'm just very sad to say that it is nothing like that.
See how we do our makeup to meet the Queensland Premier? Very demure.
Very mindful.
Very considerate.
Oh, bloody hell. God save us. There used to be a place where those guys could go and congregate and have a bloody good night. It's called the Wickham Hotel in Brisbane. And then there was a nightclub they could kick on to afterwards called The Beat, and it was one of the best clubs in Brisbane, didn't discriminate. But if you went to The Beat, you kind of knew that there might be boys like boys and girls like girls, and there might be boys who like girls and girls who like girls and boys. It's a very confusing club at times. I only went there once. But the Wickham Hotel used to be the place rather than the Houses of Parliament, Queensland Parliament. And, of course, also news over the weekend that, God love you, Victoria, you can't host the Commonwealth Games, but that duly appointed Premier of yours has decided to put up the hand for the Gay Games. Coming to Melbourne, I think, in 2026 or 28 or something like that. Oh, no, we can't do the Commonwealth Games, but we can do the Gay Games. I suspect that's because all the athletes come and stay at all their gay friends' places, and for 2 weeks it's a hell of a party. But with a few, sporting events thrown in. Pole vaulting, for instance, I'm sure will feature significantly. If you let that happen, Victoria, well, those of you who don't think that should happen, and if it is still going to happen because of the idiocy of your government and the inability of the people in Victoria to actively stand up and say, no, we will not fund this. We will not accept this level of stupidity after the embarrassment that the current government has heaped upon the state, both as an investment venue. You can't trust investing into Victoria in anything major because the government could pull the wool and the floor right out from under you at any time, not just now, but down the track as well. They're that kind of broke, I suppose, is one of the best ways of putting it. But yes, maybe the gay Olympics or the gay games, or I believe clowns is going to be one of the games they play there. You know, like the clowns you see at the circus. I don't mean the ones in the ring. I mean the ones with the ping pong ball out the front. You'll know the one I'm talking about if you're of a certain age. I haven't been to a circus. Well, shit, are there still circuses? Yes, there are. I have seen one floating around. I want to say Lennon Brothers is still on the road. It's probably more now. I don't know how many animals they'd have. Are there any more animal circuses is probably the good question. There are plenty of others that are more athletic based, I think, and magic and, trapeze and feats of strength and all that kind of thing. But are there any animal circuses? And I'm not happy if there aren't. I'm not unhappy if there aren't. I just haven't seen them in a little while. There does seem to be a penchant for big tent shows, like the German one. Name escapes me. There's a huge tent, circus tent in Munich, I want to say it is. They put on the Spiegel tent. Oh, God. And that's a huge night out from all accounts. I haven't been to it, but it did come to the Gold Coast some years ago. Was booked out solidly, couldn't get tickets to it. And then there was a lesser kind of version that was floating around, and it just sort of did the secondary tour. And for all I know, is still running around parts of Australia right now. The Moscow Circus is still getting around, Grant. Wow. Wow. I haven't seen the Moscow Circus since the 90s, it would be. And in fact, it was the Moscow, now that we're talking about it. So if you want to think of stupid things you've done in your life, I'm going to share with you a couple of the stupid things that I've done in mine, maybe, as we progress this friendship. But tonight, I'll share one in particular, which I'm absolutely confident was with the Russian circus. They came to town, and I was the guy in the breakfast show who went out and did the stunts, who did the stupid things, who, embarrassed people or himself or did whatever, and put himself on the line for the radio station every time. I was also the producer of the show, so I, got to be there every day anyway, so they put me to work going out and doing stupid things with a microphone when they figured out I could do stupid things with a microphone. And boy, did they get me to do some. This one in particular, I turned up this morning to do a live cross from the circus to promote its opening and how wonderful it was going to be. And I knew that I was going to be doing something with an animal, which was fine. I've had experience with circus animals before. Many years ago, I shot a television commercial, or two television commercials, actually, with a bloke who now lives on the Sunshine Coast. One of those commercials involved a baby lion, and the other involved a macaque monkey. Mad bloody thing. Had a ball with them. The animals liked me. It was all very good. And I had no reason to suspect any different for what we were doing with this Russian circus until I walked into the big tent and found that the lion cage was up inside it. And I thought, gee, that's weird to open the show with the lions. And they said, oh, no, that's where you're going. And I'm like, oh, am I? Now, I think they probably expected somebody to freak out at that point and get all carried away, and I didn't. In the course of my radio career, I have done some really, really stupid things. The only thing that really had me worried once was getting a mud crab. We had to tie mud crabs naked and wearing bare feet. I know, strange thing. And it was a radio thing. I'd never tied mud crabs before, and I wasn't quite sure what was going to get caught in the claw if I did it naked. And I've never bungee jumped. I've refused. I had a dream about that the night before I was meant to jump off in a live broadcast, and it all went dark when I got to the bottom, and I woke up the next morning in a cold sweat, basically. There was no way I was going to go and do that bungee jump. So never bungee jumped, never planned to. However, climbing into the lion's cage at the Russian circus, no worries. There was nothing in it at the time, so it seemed easy enough. And I kind of expected them to be playing a bit of a joke on me, you know. They'll sit me up in the lion's cage and then bring the monkey in, you know. No, they didn't. They brought in all the lions. And when I say all the lions, they brought in all the lions. And one black puma who stood on a stand opposite me on the other side of the ring. Now, they all had eyes for their trainer, who I noticed had a whip but no gun. The gun was outside the thing. He gave me some instructions going in that I shouldn't look at any of them in the eye, and it was like, okay, well, that'll be all right. We've started the cross. I've gone into the cage, stood in a specific place. The lions and everything have been let in. And one of them came and sat right beside me, a big female lion. But I think she was obviously the one that they allowed people to pat or something, because all she wanted to do was nuzzle into my shoulder. She seemed quite good. But the black puma opposite me did not take its eyes off me and had its head down and its ears were back, and it just didn't like me. And well, that's the thing I took. It turned out it wasn't me. There was something behind me, and it was scaring it, worrying it, doing whatever. There was some muppet moving behind me out of the ring, in a crew area, it would have been. And it didn't like that. It was keeping a bit of an eye on that, but I thought it was trying to get to me. While I was watching the black puma, he was trying to do a couple of tricks, and I was commentating wildly about those tricks and heavy breathing deeply into the phone. And neither of us noticed that there were two lions, two males, well, a young male and an older male, apparently father and son, and he hadn't been kicked out of the pat yet or had figured out that he was a woman. Maybe he'd transitioned, I don't know. But there was two maned lions. And they both decided to have a fight in the middle of the ring, right in front of me. And the guy with the whip was on the other side of the lions. I'm standing this side with a lion essentially on my right shoulder. There is the guy with the gun somewhere behind me, outside the cage, and a lot of noise. Old mate with the whips cracking the whip and yelling at the lions. The lions are growling and roaring, and it was a full-on fight. I shit you not. At quarter to 8 in the morning, it was. I mean, if that doesn't open your eyes, I don't know what the hell did. Anyway, gate opens. Bloke motions to me to walk calmly to the gate, which was only a couple of steps. And as soon as my frame would fit through the door frame, he's yanked me through it, like practically lifted me up and pulled me out. And slammed the gate shut. And next thing, old mate with the whip is running around the thing, and he's opening the gate and closing the gate, and down Simba, down Simba. And they're not liking anything at the time. So that was a very exciting cross. I may have said fuck on the radio. I've done that twice. Well, that would be the third time in my career. Because you really don't expect that sort of thing to happen. When they say, yeah, you'll be fine in the lion's cage, you'll be great. But not so much, I can tell you. So yeah, I've been so fortunate with my career that I have done so many things and had so many experiences that ordinary people just don't get to have. Some of you might occasionally get to go and do really cool things. Dreamworld offer a great experience where you can get behind the scenes with the tigers there. SeaWorld offer a great one with the dolphins and other bits and pieces there. And I would urge you, if you have that opportunity, go and do those things, because being in touch with animals like that, and I have been lucky enough to swim with dolphins. I've been lucky enough to swim with whales. And yes, I'll leave the harpooning jokes out of it for the time being. Thank you, trolls. I have been lucky enough to learn a great deal from the people who were, not learn a great deal. I have learned enough to get into trouble and to hold a good conversation from the people that were studying these animals at the time. And that knowledge, for whatever reason, has stayed with me. Same as a lot of my motorsport knowledge has stayed with me. I'm a great guy to have at a general knowledge quiz contest that has a music slant. But I don't begin to tell you that I know everything, and I'm a long way from knowing everything. But I have plenty of good opinions. Some of them maybe not as good as others, and some of them I'm learning to moderate. Some of them I'm learning slowly but surely to present in a different way. For a long time, I was, like you, a very angry person, and you've seen me have my little outbursts occasionally. But there was a time where I got up feeling like that, right from the word go. I got up angry. I may not have been ranting and, slamming hands down and carrying on like you see me here, but I got up with that attitude of don't fuck with me. I don't want to be fucked with today. And I'm going to bite anybody back who tries. And it was a horrible existence. And if you find yourself in that kind of an existence, find your way out of it. Many people do it in a variety of different ways. Obviously, most people are stuck in it because of the financial constraints they find themselves. Got a house, got a car loan, got this, got that. It's too difficult to walk away from all of that and go into other things. I understand, but there are other ways where you can break this cycle, and I would urge you to do it, because once you find that little bit of peace in your life, you'd be amazed what changes. Who knew I'd go out and buy a chainsaw and be running uphill down Dale, cutting up wood, sweating like a pig, and enjoying it, loving it, in fact. Driving trucks, never been a huge aspiration of mine, but anybody that knows me knows in my driving career, I've always wanted to drive the biggest, the best. They didn't clean those at all. I've wanted to drive the biggest stretch limousines in the country, and I have. And there are bigger than probably some of you realize. There are 23-wheel stretch limousines with triple axle rear steering. Now, I don't know if they're still around. They were Hummers, pieces of shit. But they used to pretty much work between Sydney and Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and were brought in for huge events. You could put 23 people in it, and it had 3 stripper poles or dance poles. It had something like 30-odd screens in it, a lit dance floor, all sorts of different things. So I enjoy driving bigger vehicles because there is a certain accuracy that you have to have. You need to be precise with where you've placed the vehicle, particularly if you want to go around a corner. Stretch limos are great things, but rarely when they stretch the car do they give you a better steering box than the one that came with it. And that might be all well and good for your, XB Falcon, or XB is probably a bit rich, isn't it? What's a current model Falcon? Is there one? A BA, BF, BG, whatever they are, or Commodore. Not going to work. So it will work very well for your Commodore, but it's not going to work if you stretch that Commodore. You won't be able to turn around and do a U-turn in like 4 lanes of traffic. With an island in the middle. I know because I've driven one, and you're going to do practically a 3-point turn over 4 lanes in an island, 2 going out, 2 coming back, and a big road island in the middle. Bloody ridiculous. Anyway, so I like driving big trucks, and that's why driving the truck and learning how to dump stuff and learning how to drive the tractor and all that, I'm really enjoying. Do I want to take it up as a career? No, but if I had to, nice to know I've got some skills in that area and a license that will let me go. So, and I've got a guy here who is driving the excavator, who is just such a lovely man, who is teaching me so much about the art of dumping, who knew there were so many things to know about it. But it's really interesting. And I guess, because I can hear Vince now saying, if it's really interesting, why aren't you filming it? I guess I can and try and explain what I'm doing at the time. I'm only learning, so I'm probably going to screw it up. And I'll take criticism quite happily, but bear in mind I am only learning. But that's the whole thing. New experiences, learning new things, and being able to take those skills on to help somebody else. It's that simple. Now, what I can do with the skills I've learned in the last week is I can help anybody here on the property now cut up wood, remove all that wood, soil, dump it where they need it, lay it out, pour it out, sort of scrape it out if you like. I haven't got excavator duties yet, but I'm just useful. I'm happy to be able to help. And there's one more person around here who can do it because, well, at the moment, there aren't too many people who can drive the truck. So I'm happy to be the person who can help. So learn a new skill and it'll be great. I mean, I'm learning how to drive a split box. That'll mean something to you truck drivers. But I'll be honest, there's not a real need to go into the high side of the gearbox around here. Trust me, it gets a bit hairy at speed around here. Too many bloody hills. So, but gear selection is all important, and that's what I'm learning. Gear selection and learning that you don't try and change gears going down a hill. If you want to go back a gear, don't try and do that going down a hill. That results in, well, a big fright and a change of underwear. Just saying. What the? You seem to have the idea. You like big trucks and you cannot lie. Yeah, very cool. That's funny. All right. I do have a couple of other things I was going to show you before I get into the video. So let me just see what I can do here. What else did I have to show you? Oh, yes, this horrible piece of work. How would you like this teaching your children? Nobody, now I don't know if this is a real thing, but I have no doubt that there are teachers in our system who may not be as overt as this purports to be, but they certainly are doing the best that they can to help transition the kids in their care. Now, if this is a fair income thing and this piece of work has transitioned 80% of her second graders, I'm not sure that court should be the last stop for her or him or whatever it is, because that takes a lot of evil to be able to do that and brag about it with impunity. That's the other thing, that there is news going on in the background at the moment that the World Court in The Hague has made out arrest warrants and is arresting different officials around the world for different countries, including Australia. And they're doing that with a view to human rights violations through the jibbity jab and the big sneeze that we all went through a few years ago. Now, if you made a complaint, and over 1 million Australians did make a complaint to the Human Rights Commission about the Australian government and the actions that they were taking. Now, not just about the federal government, but also state governments and down to local government. There are also a significant number of reports from the general public against business owners who refused service, who threw people out of their business, who embarrassed people, who cajoled them, who belittled them, who called them names while they were in their business, only trying to spend money with them. Those business owners and people may be among the group that have had human rights violation charges leveled against them as well. Now, we've heard all this before from The Hague. The Hague, things might have changed, but prior to this, in my opinion, The Hague has always been a toothless tiger, because while it has the ability to hear significant charges, and they do hear significant charges, crimes against humanity style stuff, a lot of the a lot of the last Nazis that were jailed were kept in jail through The Hague. So they were able to get people in jail or keep them in jail. But how did they get them there? Well, that was pretty easy. The Allies had locked those ones up. What do they do now? Because The Hague doesn't have an enforcement arm at all. It relies on the countries to enforce its laws, which aren't really laws, or I think they're just suggestions. So we'll see. There is an indication, many indications, in fact, that things inside that court, that whole sphere of justice, have changed somewhat, and that there is now quite a very strong mood to bring those people who committed not just crimes against humanity and crimes against, the person, be that abuse or throwing them out of shop or whatever, but they're also facing crimes of genocide. And Albanese has been named, amongst others. So I think that is probably going to be significant. I think the head of the TGA may have also been named. That's the Therapeutic Goods Administration. I think there are at least 3 big Australian names that have been named by The Hague as now wanted for crimes against humanity, and some of those crimes extend to genocide. Who's going to pick them up and take them? Now, if we've got white hats, if Q's team are out there, one would expect, black helicopters in the night, no knocks on the door, just a sharp bang and a pistol in the nostril as you're dragged off to wherever. But the people need to start seeing that. They need to see that something is being done. These clones or drones or just morons are being brought to justice. That the people who so willingly and so quickly gave up their rights and abused anybody who didn't have consequences for their actions. Now, aside from the medical consequences, which many of us are very aware of, and not everyone is going to have a medical consequence with the GBD jab. We've seen that. Not everyone is having a consequence. That's how they hide it. But the percentages in our death rates are not decreasing. They are increasing. And this has been a delayed fuse kind of thing. Yep, we lost a few going out early, real fast, because of training. If you happen to see one of those people in the Jibbity Jab Centre flopping around like a fish on the floor, having a bad reaction within 15 minutes or so of being jabbed, and there are plenty of you out there who saw that happen or know of it happening to people not long after they got home, that is a direct reaction to where the Jibbity Jab was. It was put into a muscle and not into a vein. And it does a lot more damage from the muscle through, is what my understanding of it is. So, or maybe it was the other way. It should have been in the muscle and instead went straight into a vein. And we've discussed the way the little nanos turn into razor blade edges going around through the inside of your veins, just stripping them up, creating the blood clots. So that's the mechanism of how that worked. Now, some of those were instant, obviously. They didn't want that to happen. It should have gone into the muscle mass and been defrayed through the body. They lied to us about where it was going to get to in the body and how long it was going to stay in the body. Don't ever forget that. They're going to latest coming through as well. All of it just geared to help Big Pharma make more money. The WHO are funding the evil billionaires. More cash. Why do they need cash? Well, they need cash. Got none, I hope. I hope that the white hat stories are true. I hope that the tunnels full of gold have been cleaned out. I hope the Vatican is empty. And I hope, according to the US debt clock, there is nearly $10 trillion worth of value added back into their nation. But still not enough. More to come, I think, more to come. And will that come when it comes to silver? Well, we've been talking about buying gold and silver here for some time, and I'm sure that if you've bought some gold or some silver or other precious metal, including platinum, you'll know you haven't gone backwards on the deal. But you'll also know that it's a bit weird, the price of silver versus the price of gold. And I've been asking people for some time as to why the price of silver seems to be suppressed. And many of you, like me, who've invested in silver, hopefully you've got more than me, then when are we going to see that return? When are we going to see that little bump? When is that, we need it. The way that mortgages are going, the way that everything is going, we need it. We need a little bit of help. Well, the question was asked of Elon Musk and suggested to him that maybe he needs to buy a lot more silver. And when I say a lot more silver, I mean a shitload more silver. Has this been taken into the market's understanding of the price of silver? So this guy, Mike Maloney, is a very big follower of the markets and an analyst. He got into an interview with Elon Musk and sent an open letter to Musk urging him to buy silver bullion, stating, "You said that Tesla plans to sell 20 million EVs by 2030. The company produced 430,400 units over the past 4 quarters, so that would be 19,569,600 more vehicles within 9 years. Each EV uses up to 50 grams of silver, which totals 978.4 million grams. In other words, if you reach your 2030 sales goal, Tesla will need up to 31.45 million ounces of silver per year. The cost to you at $25 silver is $786 $786.25 million. But the cost to you at $50 silver is $1.57 billion, and over 100, it's a whopping $3.145 billion. And that's just the automobile business. I think that's rather telling, don't you? Now, the price of silver, because there's only so much of it being dug out in the world, and there are charts that tell you how much of it's being dug out in the world. There must also be charts, but not available to the public, and certainly not available to the bullion dealers, as far as I'm aware. I've asked, and they say no. Where the hidden silver is going. US military industrial complex is probably the biggest part of the hidden silver. None of what they buy is showing in the price of silver on the common market. Why is that? They'd be one of the largest users of silver, along with the Chinese, because let's face it, they're making every solar panel in the world these days, just about. And what do they require? 4 grams of silver in every one of them, at least. That's the minimum they require. And if you have a look at the projections for China's solar power usage and their production quotas, you will see that they are upscaling their production needs, meaning silver, to almost 1 billion ounces of silver a year, just for solar panels. So why isn't that being reflected in the price of silver? Well, that's because some prick has their thumb on it and are moving it right down. That can't last for long. That downward pressure cannot last forever. So keep your eyes open and be prepared. It's going to come very quick when it comes. If you haven't bought some silver now, go and get some. I highly, highly recommend you go to ainslieybullion.com.au right now and buy something. Hang on to it. Hang on to it. Don't forget to put my name or Voice of Freedom in the notes section and you'll do okay. All right, I'm just going to post this Senator Roberts piece up again. I think it's important for you folks to have a look at that if you are at all interested in what he is doing for us at the moment. It's a very strong piece where he outlines a great deal of the WHO illegality and, of course, the complicit grunts and squirms from both the Labor government and the LNP opposition, weak mongrels that they are. And now I'm going to give you a bit of a look around the property. So I did say when I probably I was saying, and some of it you didn't, particularly when I got out of the car. The Bluetooth on the car, I didn't realize it was Bluetoothing. I thought I'd turned all that off. So I've done another voiceover for it, if you like. So I'll play that for you. I've cut a little bit out of it. Doesn't run the whole 28 minutes or whatever it was the other day, but it's pretty close. It'll give you a little look at the property, and I haven't shown you all of it, but there are a couple of different areas there. At one point, I'm talking about sleepers and cutting big straining posts for fences. And in the background of that, you'll notice that's the public camping area. It's all fairly steep up the hill up there from the woodyard. And yeah, there's a few other areas that I've sort of not shown you quite deliberately because they're private areas. But yeah, there is a few lots available here at the property if you are at all interested. So Carl@vofhq.com if you are interested, and we can see what we can do for you. And when I say it's just I have nothing to do with the property. This is strictly a Sam and Cass business, and the ladies are very, very competent at what they do. I just speak with the royal we because, I don't know, old and lonely, stupid. Figure it out for yourself. Anyway, let's have a look at the property and get in touch if you feel you'd like to be part of it. Well, g'day, folks. This is a little tour that I took of the property yesterday. However, due to some sort of screw up with the Bluetoothing in the car system, you didn't hear my audio, my great commentary all the way through. So I thought this is a bit of a safety video in case I can't get back for a live show tonight. I've got to be at a meeting at 5 o'clock, and I'm not sure that meeting will be done by 6:30, much less have time for a show. So if there is a chance for a show, it'll be later, but I'll have this ready to play at 6:30. So I've just come through what we call the top gate. It's sort of the back gate to the property, if you like. And I'm making my way down here through one of the tracks. You can see one of the container homes briefly on the left-hand side there. There's another tent and caravan set up a little bit lower down. We'll drive past a few more properties down here. And you can see, doesn't it look beautifully cleaned up? You know, no huge great chunks and piles of wood anywhere. That's because this is one of the roads we've been doing a little bit of work on, trying to clear away just the mulchable sort of rubbish. Anything that's good, we're using for firewood. Give you a bit of a look. Here's one of the container homes. This one doesn't have anybody in it yet. They are moving in slowly but surely. And you can see the pad is prepared, and all you've really got to do is drop whatever you're living in on there, be that a caravan tent or whatever. Now, you can grow grass and make it a real beautiful little area, but that's what's so nice about this. It is off-grid living. You can make of it what you want to. Now, I'm going to take you right down to the bottom of the property here. That's actually a road leading up to another block that's up on the top of the hill, right up there. The views from up there will be absolutely amazing. But a huge amount of dirt moved to get a road up there, I can tell you. And a bit of, I think there's been quite some drainage work going there too to make sure that the road stays there. So I've had to do a little bit of a squirt along here because there was somebody backing down, and I didn't want to get to that Y intersection before they did. So there's a couple of folks who live up on the right-hand side in caravans and tents. They've got really good outdoor setups, if I'm honest, really good. Down on the left there, we're looking at Clayton Court. Now, you might be lucky enough to see, maybe not yet, but you will soon, some dumped dirt. This is where I dumped 4 loads the other day, and I think was on the way back from one of the lives, or did one of the lives on the way back from dumping one of these runs the other day. So you can see we've got a fair bit of mulching to do down the bottom down here. And this is the lower area of one pad, terraced. That's where I've been dumping my dirt. Beautiful. On that terrace there, there's 2 loads down the back, and in fact 2 loads on the right, one hidden behind the other. And then there'll be more going up on the top terrace in the near future. That's because that's all down to clay there, so we're going to put topsoil in. And over on the left-hand side, if I turn around, you'll see a few rocks and whatnot. That is the beginnings of a memorial garden for someone very special to those of us around here. So it'll be a very, very tranquil, lovely area to be in once all the construction is finished. And as you can see, there is a fair bit of that construction going on. But a lot of that dead tree, that big tree that you can see there actually is one of the ones that was brought down in the storm at Christmas. So there are quite a few of those very large trees, whether they be blue gums, ironbark, I don't know, bloody hard stuff, turpentine wood, somebody else is calling it. Anything's actually possible. And we're considering what to do with some of it. I've had a lot of people contact me asking me whether or not I can load up a trailer load and bring it to you. And look, I'm happy enough to do that. You know, might help with a tank of fuel or whatever. Very strange. I don't even know if you're seeing me. I'm sitting here trying to go back through your comments. Let me see if I hit play again and if it starts. Doesn't appear to be. But the video doesn't appear to be working, does it? So let me remove that for a moment. Let it try and refresh. Or do I? All right. 4 minutes 22. I think I might have to re-add it for some reason. Very silly idea. And 4 minutes 22 we wanted, didn't we? That's 2 minutes. Contact me asking me whether or not I can load up a trailer. Let's see how that goes. To you. And look, I'm happy enough to do that. You know, might help with a tank of fuel or whatever. The problem is I won't have a trailer to bring behind me anymore, as I'll be bringing the little Suzuki here that we are currently driving, and you'll get a bit of a look at that. That's about the most outrageous tent I've seen yet on the property. A great guy lives in there, and very useful around the property. Another couple of containers there that are an L-shaped container home. Now, this little track that we're about to go down is where I've been driving the dump truck. Now, you don't really get an idea of how steep this is, unfortunately. You'll get a little bit of a look here at this dip as we head down through. And you've got to be careful going through this one in any vehicle, because if you don't slow down, really almost to a crawl through it, you're going to drive your nose into the dirt wall, essentially on the upside of the road, and do a bit of damage to your vehicle, and nobody likes that. There has been just a little bit of mulching going on through here, and I think that's before my time. I haven't done anything. This road is relatively new, so they did cut that road through. There was a couple of downed trees and whatnot, so we're going to have to come along this road and do a bit of mulching, and this will give you an idea. You want to be a bit fit. And I mean, I'm not fit, but I'm getting fitter doing it. This is why, because we've got hills and crossings like this that you may have to walk up or down. Now, it doesn't look real steep, but middle of the photo over there, you might see a little bit of road creeping up out. Well, we've got to go down before we can go up. So this is significantly steep, and gets a bit sloppy down the end down there. Sorry the camera is so bumpy. It was hanging in my arm, not a GoPro. I just decided I was coming back yesterday morning after meeting with a bloke who I really hope to be introducing you to in some way, shape, or form in the very near future. And particularly if you are a returned serviceman, a veteran, uh, maybe a first responder, great stuff. These piles of dirt, they're my piles of dirt. Look how beautifully they're dumped. I mean, I could be working for the council with dumping skills like this. And this is our wood yard. We'll get out here and have a little bit of a look, I think, from memory. So we've got a quite a large wood mill. We're still experiencing a learning curve on the wood mill, but we are milling wood. Planks, essentially, at the moment, hardwood planks, because, well, funnily enough, we have a lot of hardwood. There's me having a good look at myself again. You don't need to worry about that bit for a while. Thank you to the folks that commented about pink being my colour. And I think Giselle was one of them. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So it's not nice to know that I have a colour. So here's some of the wood that's already been pulled and stacked. You can see really good wood, and it's chipping up well. Well, that stuff's not chipping up. That stuff, the bigger stuff in the foreground, some of it will be used for greater purposes. Some of it sleepers, some of it not sleepers as such, but strainer posts for fences around here. And you met Dwayne in one of my lives the other day, the fencing king. He cuts those strainer posts out of this and then hauls them down with the excavator, plants them, does all the fences himself. Stunning. I'm not sure if that's a regular thing. I mean, most farmers will probably say, sure, I do all the fences myself. Well, I'm blown away for it. I couldn't do the fence, not in a heartbeat. As you go, a little bit of a look at the mill over there, and we are of limited knowledge in how to use it, and it's a very dangerous machine to be using. So if anybody happens to be watching who knows how to use one of those mills and knows how to use it competently, I think you're going to tell us that it is the wrong mill for the wood that we've got. And unfortunately, that I've heard that bit of news already. Not completely sure, but if we can put it to some use, otherwise there might be a pretty cheap softwood mill going up for sale. We do need a hardwood mill, and it's getting through the wood that we have here. The problem is that it dulls the blade very, very quickly. I just wanted to show you that I can, in fact, drive the tractor, and that is the tractor that I've been driving. The backhoe I have not had a go at yet, but the bucket at the front, I have become mildly less than proficient in its use. And you see the forks that are sitting there in the bucket? Well, that's the way I was meant to be transporting the forks the other day, while dropping them somewhere and then using the bucket to pick up a whole heap of chopped wood and bring it back to somebody's place. And I broke that bar off, that centre bar. You can see that nice shiny welds. We have a man named Maddie here who has all the skills in the world when it comes to diesel things, and welders, as it turns out. So thankfully he fixed the forklift frame that I completely screwed up. So a little more lessening involved with my use of forklift and bucket, dare I say. And yeah, another bit of a look there at some of the big wood that we've got lying around, which, you know, we cut as required and use. There's a wood splitter over the back of the yard there, so one of the blokes here, one of his jobs is to make sure that there's enough split wood, particularly for the campsites, the public campsites, which I'll show you here shortly. And of course, just in case you were unsure about our wood chipping abilities, here's just a couple of little piles. I don't know who dumped this pile here and threw a Coke can in with it. I can tell you, hand on heart, that is not my Coke can. I think it was one of the blokes who was working with me, but pretty shitty dump job by the bloke who did that, which was me. Managed to keep it on the road more than anything. I pulled up on it in a strange angle. There's actually quite a large hole behind there, and I didn't want to put the rear wheels of the truck in. So that gives you a bit of a look at the timber yard, and that's the little Suzuki that, well, there's a whole story to the little Suzuki which you haven't heard, and it's one of the reasons I think I told you that something has been holding me here in southeast Queensland. Well, that little Suzuki is part of it. It will now be a tow-along vehicle behind the bus. So I'll have some wheels when I get to a town near you, rather than spending what was looking more and more like a small fortune on Ubers and taxis in town so that I could get to a supermarket or get to a pub or have a meal, do anything. So uh, just giving a wave to Lincoln there. He was out to do a little bit of watering, and we'll come back and I'll show you what he was watering there shortly. There's a pad down there. No, somebody owns that one, I think. But there are a couple of these, or more than, I can't remember exactly. There's more than two, less than six, I want to say, of these pads or to live out here at this particular property. Of course, there is the other property as well, Ferny Haven, but that's a whole different ballgame. This is off-grid living, certainly at its finest, as far as I've seen. Our roads pretty good in the wet, very good in the dry. They don't get too slippery in the wet, but when it gets really wet, yes, they can. You can see a fair bit of work going on this pad here. Lovely lady who's setting herself up there. It looks pretty wild at the moment. Those rolls are really interesting. They are actually rolled up cement and are going to be used for a driveway down to her place there, which you can see the deck is just going up around. She's got beautiful views out over the valley. There is another caravan down there. There'll be another tiny home going onto that side, I think, in the not too distant future. And below that again, you can, there's one of the excavators that I haven't been playing in. They don't let me in the excavators yet. That's probably a good thing. Figure out how to drive the truck properly first and not dump the wood chips on. I might get another go. Beautiful area here in the evenings too, folks. It attracts some lovely animals. We've got wallabies, kangaroos, koalas. I heard koalas grunting. That's another tiny home, well, container home going together with a bit of framing for shading to go up over the roof and over the outdoor area, just to make it a bit cooler in the summer months. Once again, don't really get a good example here of how steep some of these roads are. When I say it's pretty goat-like or goat track-ish, it is. And I apologise for the bounciness of the camera. It's because my arm is holding on to a stick which has the camera basically out the window, but my arm, like an idiot, is resting on the door. When it gets really bad, it's probably resting on the door. So more of those little bits and pieces of wood, and I'm taking you up now, I think, to give you a bit of a look at our chipper. This is the machine that cannot be operated by a single man. Well, it can be, but it would be the world's most dangerous, bloody thing to go and do. My God, does that thing know? You could chew through me in about a second, and I'm thicker than most of the trees we're throwing through it. I mean, around my waist. I don't know about my head. But I wanted to show you this little particular. This is one of the communal of them here at this site, and there will be just as many, if not more, over at Ferny Haven. But on this site, this is one of the community areas which has been put to limited use at the moment, only because people are trying to set themselves up. However, you can see there's a bit of a swing set and a play area for kids. We're putting in a barbecue area there, a fire pit, somewhere we can sit, and who knows, some of that wood that you are seeing, now that I have a chainsaw, and what you don't know about me is that I've been known to do a little bit of wood carving, not chainsaw carving though. I am very interested to get into a bit of chainsaw carving, so this might be the place where I start making some chainsaw carved chairs that can be planted here, and we can have our little communal area around a fire pit, place we can put the cast iron cookers in and do a slow cook for the day, and come back and enjoy the sunset. It faces almost due west, and very warm in the afternoons, but if you had a bit of a look at the view there, you'll see that there's a mountain range. You're looking across some farmland into a mountain range, and for those of you interested, that range is where the fabled Yowie lives. Now, I'm not joking. If you drive here and you come to the property and you know the right place of the road to looking, but I know you're all not dickhead drivers, so you would always be looking at the road. You would see this. There are Yowie footprints on the road here, where the Yowie was seen crossing the road. What is a Yowie? Well, for our international guests, think Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the abominable snowman. That Yowie is the Australian version of that. And it's interesting that there are so many Bigfoot stories, if you like, Sasquatch and Yowie stories around. Here's where we've been doing a bit of work too. That's all due for mulching tomorrow morning. They'll start there. Most of it's already cut up. They've already cleaned a huge patch out through there. I had two blokes working with me the other day. While they were cutting and throwing here, I was up cutting at another site, and yeah, they did pretty well. Although they did knock off about 11:30, because in the heat of the day, you don't want to be out in here doing this if you can possibly avoid it. We have cleaned up, as you can see, quite a lot, but this pile here needed to be cut up into a more manhandleable size. Now, some of you are going to say, "Oh, you're weak, you're weak, you're weak," but not so much. I'm just trying to point out there over the wood. That's a 2-story container home. Rather than having them side by side, it's one on top of the other, and if memory serves, it's on wheels, so it can be towed. It is quite. I haven't been down to it because I don't like invading people's space around here. That's part of the reason people like to come here. Nobody invades your space. You can live quite happily, and have as much or as little involvement as you choose. Unfortunately, that where the water truck was coming out from earlier, up there is our community centre, and if you're part of the community here, you've got access there. There's one of our blokes that's part of the community, great fella, very handy on the tools, I've got to tell you, and we're planning on doing a lot more in the community centre, and in fact I'll probably do a show from the community centre at some stage as well. There are so many nice parts of the property, including this one, which is being cleaned up. Some of these people are cleaning up their own sites, and I don't want to go in and mulch all their wood because they might want it for firewood. So this pile in particular is one I really wanted to get into, but I've got to find out whether or not I'm allowed to attack that with a chainsaw just yet. So don't be worried, folks, if you haven't been contacted, and I know Macca made a comment in the chat that he'd reached out to me via email. Thank you, mate. I'm just flat out at the moment with other things, and we don't really have enough work. We've probably got 10 people like yourself who've said they're keen to come out, and what I don't want to do is not have enough work for you all, or to give you a couple of days each, or whatever it is that it works out to be. And I want to be a few days ahead of the mulcher with the cutting, and that's really what tomorrow and or yesterday, I did a lot of cutting here out the back yesterday by myself, and tomorrow and I'm just bringing myself back in here while I'm rambling on there. On the screen, what you're seeing there in the background, call it the dirt that you're seeing, that is actually just a newly planted area. It's one of the 6 orchards that are on the property. If the camera, I can't remember if it does swing left again, just keep following up that hill to your left, and you'll notice that there are already a number of trees already planted in the first orchard, which is in a different paddock, but to the left of that current view. There is another one that'll go down to the right of that orchard, and another one that's already planted in a different part. So there are plans for 6 orchards and lots of veggies and lots of fruit. The plan eventually is to be completely self-sustaining out here too, of course. Tuesday will probably be that. By Wednesday, we'll be mulching more or less where I'm parked, and that will be a huge job. I've probably cut 10 ton of timber, probably more, out the side there, so there's a fair bit of mulching to be doing. I think we figured out how much mulching there is to do. I've talked about the wood enough. There you go, folks. So a bit of a look at the property. I did see a couple of comments I started to go back to. Glenn, what do the sites have, power and water? Well, they have power if you bring it, and they have water to a point. This property is off-grid living, so there is no power to the site. Everything that people are installing at the moment is solar-based and seems to be working pretty well. There are some backup areas for power. The community centre has a generator, instance, a large one, I mean. So, again, I'm being invaded by little flying things. Yeah, but as to your site particularly, no, there is no power to the sites. You can put power on the site, but you'll need to generate it from the site using solar. You won't be able to afford to bring power off the main road and bring it to your site. It's just too expensive. So, yes, off-grid living. That's what that sort of means. Water. Well, yes and no. Every resident here gets a big IBC, which is about a ton of water, 1,000 litres of water. There are 3 bores on the property with really good water, and really, really good water, particularly in one of them. That's the one we use for the main drinking water, if you like, around here. It is really good water too. So, yes, you can get an IBC and you can basically get that filled whenever you need it. And one of the boys around here will come around. It's one of his jobs to go around and fill up the water. Now, from there, what do you do with it? Well, depending on how you want to use your water and whether you want to plumb your whole house into it or that sort of thing, well, there are different ways and means. You probably need more than 1,000 litres to begin with. So you'll have to think about tanks and all that sort of stuff. And but that comes involved with the process of what sort of tiny home are you going to put, or are you just going to have a tent? If you are just going to have a tent, there are showers and toilets on the property. The shower that I particularly use is not very far from me. It's only just up the hill. It's a gas heated but solar powered, if you like, shower system. It's great. It's a hot shower, always hot. Never gone cold on me. I would like a bigger shower head, but maybe that's because I've got big shoulders. I don't know. There are also 2 toilets in there as well, one of which has just been plumbed into a new disposal system. The other one will get plumbed into it, obviously, fairly soon too, this week, I think. That is a pretty amazing system, actually, a pretty amazing sewage system, in that one of the byproducts of it is methane, and methane is a great gas for firing things like barbecues. So there will be another communal area not terribly far from this shower/toilet facility, and we're going to see how well the methane works. It comes out of this big bladder, if you like, that captures everything. It filters it. It does everything it needs to do to remove smells and other bits and pieces, and gives you a clean gas line to power things like a barbecue from. So we're going to give it a go, see if it works. As long as it captures everything else it needs to capture, that's all we really require. Now, if you want to put your own sewage into your own property, then you can do that as well. It would be a tank, a sewage tank you probably have to look at doing. And that means getting it pumped out, obviously, when it gets full. But all these things you can do, or you can just use the communal facilities if you're okay with doing that. Like living in a caravan park, and except there's not as much of a lineup for the showers or the toilets, if I'm honest. So yeah, that's the story with that. Can I show a picture of the footprint from Glenn? Yes, I'll have to pull up and take one, but I will take a couple of pictures of the footprint and endeavour to have them to you in tomorrow night's show, Glenn. I hope I can do that for you. Thanks, Margot. The place does look lovely, and I don't know why I'm thanking you, because I've done nothing to make it look this good. Cass and Samantha are really the moving shakers and the doers behind this property and Fernie Haven. This property now, I think the girls have had it for over 2 years, probably coming up on 3, I want to say. And over that time, there have been people who bought into the community, who bought in very cheaply, and then for whatever reason decided to take the offer on their block when it was made, because they hadn't put anything on it yet, and somebody came through and said, oh, gee, I quite like that block. Oh, well, you can make an offer. and a lot of people flipped those blocks and made some good money out of it. So that opportunity does exist as well. Land's not getting any cheaper, and they're not making any more of it. Well, that's not completely true. The volcanoes are firing up a bit. There could be a lot more land and a lot less of it where it currently exists in the near future. But that's a whole other show, isn't it? Alana, yeah, well, look, reach out. Send an email to me. I'll pass it on to Cass. We can facilitate a place for you to stay. Just depends on, if you've got a caravan, it'll make your life a little bit easier, I suppose. There is no shortage of sunlight where we are. And I guess if you ever got really caught, there is obviously the community centre and a few other areas that do have power that you can get to, but you shouldn't have too many issues. Nobody out here complains of no power. In fact, I have been on my batteries here on the bus. Well, I only went back on them this afternoon. I only went back on power this afternoon, and I get my power from Cass's solar. So she's been really nice and shared me a very long power cable. So I get to plug into her power most of the time, but we've been building a huge mess between her place and where I'm parked. And we don't want them driving over the power cable. So I'm just having a bit of a look and seeing if it's still charging. And it is. But I've been on my batteries for the last 4 days because of all the work we've been doing out here. Can't be driving over the power leads. So my batteries, 4 days. And what am I running? I'm running this laptop. I've got a screen here. I have an overhead light that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 LEDs in it. I have a TV up here that's just a 12-volt TV that isn't turned on, and I should actually unplug it so it doesn't waste power, but I don't watch anything through it. I have a very little fridge, like a car fridge down here. The other fridge down the back doesn't work, or at least I've not been able to make it work. So it doesn't get used. This little car fridge is the only thing I've got. And that is about all the power that I am currently drawing. So I've got an inverter on board, and it all seems to work out quite well. I will charge up again tomorrow during the day. If it's a good day, won't be any problems. Today, I just plugged back into the power because the batteries had been out of them for 4 days, and I thought I'll give them a bit of a kick along while we weren't working on the pad today. And I'll probably be on the batteries for the next few days. So the sun out here is, well, very hot, but also pretty steady. And this time of year, got absolutely no problem with solar. We did strike a bit of an issue. There were people on the property here a month ago when it was raining. It started raining. I think they'd had maybe 2 days of rain, like good solid rain, and no appreciable solar. And they were in all sorts of strife. They needed power for various things. They had small children, and one of them was a baby, and I think they needed stuff to be able to heat up milk or whatever. So rather than they were campers, so rather than traipse them up into the community centre, which is not really for the campers, it's just for the owners, if you like, the property. We took a generator down and sorted them out with that. So they were able to get power overnight and, well, for the next day until they left. It wasn't an issue. They were still able to enjoy their stay even inside. And yes, it can get a little muddy, particularly if you're on a clay site. It gets a bit sticky. But once you've got your topsoil down on there, put a bit of grass in, it's very, very, very nice indeed. Very nice indeed. So plenty of opportunity for that around. God, how long have I been talking tonight? Hour and a half nearly. Time to stop, I reckon, folks. So, Diane, there is a porta potty just up past the shower that I was telling you about. And in fact, that has been the home of, the things that live in porta potties for 1, 2, 3, probably 3 people around this area, and every tradie that's come on site in the last 3 months. So, no, I've got a toilet here in the bus, and as long as I keep the water up to it and take the bus out occasionally, find a dump point, life is good. But there are porta potties, and in fact, I think there are 5 new porta potties arriving. There are 3 new toilet and shower blocks, which are magnificent structures. Box that's, I suppose, 3 meters by 3 meters. Inside it, full basin and toilet area. We've got 3 of those already on site, and I think one of them got finished getting plumbed in today. That means the other 2 will be tomorrow and the next day, I suspect. And then there are, I think, another 3 of them due to come in the next month or 2. I think we bought them out in Australia, and we're waiting for the next shipload to arrive. But let's get me using the we again. I have nothing to do with any of this, folks. I just want to make that abundantly clear. I treat it, I guess, a bit like a we perspective because I've been made feel like such a part of the family here. But be under no misunderstanding. I have nothing to do with the running of this place, and the girls that are running it don't need my help to run it, or yours for that matter. They're doing a bloody great job, and in 2 years, what they've been able to create here is absolutely mind blowing. And I'm sure if you had the opportunity to come and visit it for yourself, you'd find that too. It's such a tranquil, beautiful place. So look forward to seeing you out here if you want to come. Alan, if you want to find out more about it, email me, carl@vofhq.com. And when you talk to Cass, she'll give you all the details on what's available with the properties and how all that works. But if you send them through to me, I'll make sure that they get in front of her at the appropriate time, and they'll be catching up. Here's some good advice. Agate Master, when sizing a solar system, double the solar panels in watts to amp hour of battery storage. That is very, very wise indeed. I think I have 200 watt, 200 amp hour batteries, AGM batteries, house batteries, if you like, being fed off the solar. And I think I've got 250 watts of solar generating shit on the roof. So it keeps me going. That's all I've found. It keeps me going. All right, folks, going to love you and leave you tonight. An hour and a half. God, talk about pulling it off. How much is rental? Alana, I have no idea. I'm not part of any of all of that. I don't know how much it costs. I am fortunate enough to be able to pretty much stay on one of Cass's blocks here. And because I'm not permanent, I'm not staying, I'm sort of in and out. So I have nothing to do with the rental side of things. And that's why I'm happy to work a bit around here, because it's the way I'm giving back. I'm very fortunate and I don't have to pay the rent, but I have been out cutting a lot of wood recently, amongst other things, and wrangling cats. Oh, maybe that's something I could end with tonight. I have to be honest with you. If there were some things that I thought we were going to see here at this property, I can't do it. It's the wrong side of file. Hang on. Maybe I can share this a different way. If I thought that there were some things I was going to see on this property, I could have given you a list, and many things would have made it. But I didn't expect a new animal to come into our lives, so to speak. And last night, a new animal. I don't know if you can hear that growl. That's the cat growling. Yeah. New animal in the house. Well, that was last night. The cat did a runner apparently, at some stage this morning. I don't know. Not my cat, not my dog, not my house. And I haven't seen the cat. I have seen the dog. The house isn't going anywhere. But, yeah, there is somewhere out there a nameless cat. I believe the name was going to be something like Tiger. But now it's probably under the house, wondering why it's been moved to hell, where there are 3 dogs running around all wanting to say, oh, hello, how are you? The dogs have no interest in the cat. They've had cats around them all their life, and they're not going to chase it. Or that doesn't necessarily mean the cat knows that. So I'm sort of expecting the cat to turn up here in the bus anytime soon. And I was thinking it may not be a bad thing to have a cat in the bus. They look after themselves. You know, if I had to go out for a few hours, I can, you know, make sure that there's a hole for it somewhere it can get in and out of. And I guess if it doesn't like you, it can choose to stay. You can just leave it when you drive off after you've been somewhere for a few days. I wouldn't like that because I don't like leaving animals. I would be a bit attached to it. But I reckon once you do the old butter on the paws trick, it wouldn't go too far. Nobody wanted to listen to me about the butter on the paws trick. But I've tried it. It works. Really works. For the most part, anyway. All right, folks. Loving your work. Alana. If a 7-year-old wanted to work on the property, would you have opportunities? Strong back, good arms, good attitude, always an opportunity. Yes. And it's not just an opportunity here on the property. There might be opportunities in other fields. You don't know who you meet when you come here. You don't know who's associated with the joint. I can tell you there are some interesting people. These that present themselves that come from a completely unexpected area seem to be abundant here, and I'm very thankful for that. I hope maybe the same could be for you. But yes, that's something that you could talk about with Sam and see what's available. We are at the moment growing, obviously, a lot of fruit, a lot of veggies, trying to improve our animal stocks. We've doubled our with all the lambs. That apparently is a good thing, although many of these lambs apparently are boys, and that's not a good thing. So could be lamb for lunch soon. There are goats on the property, as you saw today, and we're dropping more goats too, I think, on a daily basis. This land is just too steep for cattle, and they get into places they just can't get out of, and then they wind up dying down there, and they die a horrible death. We know that from the previous owners, not because of anything Cass or Sam had happened while they were here, because there were initially cattle on the property when the girls bought it, but they were smart enough to realise that was just going to be a problem for them. So they rounded them all up fairly quick smart and sold them all off. We have a great set of cattle yards, though. Just saying. Okay, folks, if your son is interested or your daughter is interested, Alana, I don't know whether or not we sexed your child, gendered, and is that the work? I don't know. There are opportunities. If you're good with animals, if you're good with people, if you don't mind a bit of hard work, because it's a bit of hard work, some of this at times, but it is some of the most fulfilling work I've ever done in my life with some of the most wonderful people, very down-to-earth people. The guys I'm working with, the workers on the property, are really down-to-earth blokes, but boy, do they know their shit. And that's great. That's what you want, because there's no point working with a fuckwit. Too many dickheads on the road. You don't want to be working with the dickheads when you come home. Or at least I don't. I'm hoping you're the same. Have a good night. Talk to you tomorrow. See you soon.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!